Let's put on a happy face and talk about Joker 2 Folie À Deux. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Joker Folie À Deux, the second movie in the Joker franchise, the Joker reboot, directed by Todd Phillips and starring Joaquin Phoenix again as Arthur slash the Joker and introducing Lady Gaga. So, is this sequel worth your time? Is this worth watching? My hot take is I think you should watch it. Now, surprisingly, I was between a watch now and a watch later on this one because I love the opening. I love the way it started, but there were a few things I didn't really love as much about it. I didn't like this one as much as the original, as you can imagine. I thought the original was fantastic. I thought it was a masterpiece. This one has a lot of what I loved about the original. It's another atmospheric and dark adaptation of the Joker story that has the mood and style of the original with a phenomenal performance by Phoenix and Gaga and a lot of music, which is good and bad. So, overall, I think you should watch it. I think it's still a strong movie. It still has a lot that I love. I just didn't love this one nearly as much as I liked the first one. So, oh, and you might be wondering, hey, if I do go see this, should I stay till the end of the credits? Is there a stinger? No, there's no stinger. So, as soon as the credits roll, I mean, it has that really nice, like atmospheric, heavy music throughout the credits. So, you might want to stay for that. But otherwise, you can just leave. So all that being said, I'm gonna tell you a little about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are a lot of surprises along the way. I would turn off when I get there. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Joker Folie À Deux, you have, and I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm doing my best. You have Arthur Fleck awaiting his trial for the crimes that he committed at the end of Joker. He's at Arkham. He's preparing for his defense, but he meets someone early on that kind of changes his outlook and maybe changes the course of his trial and the rest of his life. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the opening. The opening is fantastic. It's like cartoon sequence, almost like, a traditional movie short, like it used to start at the beginning of a lot of animated films. It's perfect. It has the right tone. It has the right style. I love the opening. I thought it was wonderful. Second thing I love, the performances. I mean, Phoenix is again like just he transforms. He like completely takes on Arthur Fleck slash the Joker. It is amazing to see. Like his body changes, the way he moves changes. It's amazing. And Lady Gaga does a really good job. She's a good partner for him. She is not as powerful as him, but she has singing chops, and there's a lot of music in this movie, so that fits well. The third thing I love the music, some of it. The atmospheric music is dark and overbearing. It's exactly what you want. A similar feel, a similar style to the first Joker and the Batman reboot, the Robert Pattinson Batman. And some of the songs, there's a lot of musical sequences. Some of them are good, although there are a lot of them. The fourth thing I love the style and tone. I've kind of talked about it a bunch, but like it has this like imposing, dreary, gloomy feel that is fantastic. I love it. I love that this is Gotham, that they portray Gotham as dark and overbearing and like just horrible for the downtrodden. It like sets the mood perfectly, and everything about this film contributes to that. And the last thing I loved the ending. I liked how it ended. It just took a while to get there. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much. It is slow. I mean, the first movie was slow, but you forgive that because that is the kind of like build up to the Joker character. You're waiting for the Joker to come. You're like seeing the progression and seeing what happens. This movie is also slow. Less about the Joker coming out and more about a trial and his defenses and Arthur kind of grappling with who he is and the Joker. So it is less interesting and it's slow. The second thing I didn't love, it takes too long to get to the Joker. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I'll talk about that in the recap. The third thing I didn't love, the dream sequences. It's kind of related to how I said there's a lot of them in the music section. There's a lot of dream sequences. Feels like there's one like every 10 minutes. And I loved a lot of them, but eventually I was like, I don't want any more dream sequences. I want to get going with the movie. And the fourth thing I didn't love, something about the ending. There's a sequence right before the ending that I didn't love. I'm not going to go into it here, but I'll go out into it in the recap. So, look, you can see a lot I loved, a few things I didn't love. So overall, I think you should probably watch it. It is still a really interesting movie. It's an interesting take on the Joker. It is a, powerful film. It is a, well-made film. It is definitely one that kind of like has a mood and a style that is front and center throughout. So I think you should ultimately watch it, but I was kind of between a watch now and a watch later on this one. So if you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now, and I'll try to keep it quick. It is a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, but I think I can do it. We'll see. But if you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there'll be spoilers. So in Joker Folie À Deux, you have, like I said, this wonderful opening. It is this like old school Warner Brothers kind of opening, like a Looney Tunes almost start, where you have an animated Joker sequence where Joker like goes up to a talk show and he's getting ready, but he's like fighting with his shadow, and his shadow becomes like a physical person, and the shadow like comes out there. It is a really imaginative, fun way to start it, and it fits perfectly because you got this like bright animated style with the Joker and his shadow doing horrible, horrible things. So that's a great way to start. Now, then we get into the actual world of the Joker, and you have Arthur at Arkham awaiting trial. He's working with his attorney on his defense. He is they're trying to see if he's competent to stand trial, and then ultimately he's going to stand trial. Now, it is a fairly like overbearing, kind of bleak place, but he seems to have a decent relationship with the guards. They seem to kind of like him. He'll tell them bad jokes and they'll give him cigarettes. They seem to treat him okay. I mean, the guards are kind of mean to a lot of people, but they seem to treat Arthur okay. And one of them, this guard named Jackie, seems to kind of like have Arthur a little bit under his wing. So Jackie's played by Brendan Gleeson. Wonderful addition. I love Brendan Gleeson. I will see anything he's in, so he was a perfect choice for this. Now, early on, Jackie is like one of four guards who takes Arthur to go see his lawyer. And this is a really cool sequence. They're like taking him through Arkham. They go to the minimum security wing, and there's this really awesome shot where the guards all go outside. There's like four guards flanking him. It's raining. They all put up umbrellas, and the umbrellas are all like single colors, and they're all like kind of like bright colors, like red, yellow, orange, blue. And there's a shot above where you see these like four perfect circles and Arthur right in the middle with the rain falling on him. I thought it was a fantastic shot. It was a really cool shot, really good colors, really like great way to showcase like how bleak Arkham is with a little bit of a pop of color. Anyways, they're taking him to go see his lawyer, who's played by Catherine Keener. And as he's going, he passes by this like music practice in the minimum security wing. And there he sees someone catches his eye, this person that we've never seen before, but played by Lady Gaga. And they kind of like see each other for a brief moment before he goes and talks to his lawyer. Now later, remember how I said like Jackie kind of takes Arthur under his wing? Jackie gets Arthur into this music class. He says Arthur's been a model inmate, and so he gets him into the music class. I'm not sure why. I don't really know what's in it for Jackie. He does seem to like singing. Maybe he just wants a break from the like bleak maximum security prison, so he just wants to go and like have fun for an hour. That could be it. It could also be that he does actually like Arthur. I'm not sure. He kind of treats Arthur up and down throughout this movie, but this lets him get close to this person. When we find out is this person named Lee, or Harley Quinzel, so it goes by Lee. And when they first meet, she is infatuated with him, with the Joker character. She references that knock knock joke from the Murray show that he told, and also says that she loved him in that, and also that she loved him in this like made for TV movie about his life. He didn't play it, but they reference this made for TV movie over and over again, and they say she said it was amazing. So later, after some practices, he's at a movie with Lee and the rest of the minimum security ward, and Lee wants to get out of there. Arthur's like, no, I don't want to miss the movie. I don't want to miss this part. And so Lee decides to set a piano on fire. She does it, secretly, I guess. No one sees. But this piano gets lit on fire. It causes a fire in Arkham. Everyone panics. Everyone like runs. Lee and Arthur try like kind of escape. They go outside at least, and they're like ducking between the cars. And eventually they run up to the gate, but they can't get out of there because there's a gate with barbed wire. Nothing's open. So they eventually get caught by the cops. But it is a fun like event for them. It is a fun like outing, and it shows, that they're both the same kind of crazy. So this gets Arthur thrown into like solitary confinement. Lee eventually leaves and visits him before. She has some sway, it seems, with the guards. She visits him before. It's a conjugal visit. Arthur is very happy about this, but Lee eventually gets checked out of Arkham. Now we're building up, we're waiting for the trial. The trial happens and it's a media frenzy. There's a ton of Joker supporters there and also a ton of people that want him to die. So very mixed crowd. So Arthur's main defense, or at least his defense attorney's main defense, is that Arthur and the Joker are distinct. He has like a split personality from his childhood trauma, and that has led to the creation of this Joker. And the Joker was the one who did the crimes, not Arthur. And his lawyer is trying to set this all up with different psychiatrists, different questions and things like that. The DA, who just wants Arthur to fry, is Harvey Dent. So, and he's arguing that there's no two distinct characters. This is just Arthur. He's a psychopath. He should be dead. So during the trial, Lee shows up. Remember, she checked out of Arkham, so she's able to come to the trial, and she shows up, and Arthur tries to get her closer to him. She sits in the back initially, and eventually she moves up. His attorney says that's a bad idea. She's been out there talking to the media. She's not good for you. We need to keep your like, your defense clean, but eventually she capitulates and Lee gets moved closer. Now, while she's arguing with Arthur about this, his attorney does tell him some of the stuff that about Lee that he doesn't know. So Lee told him when they first met that she grew up in his neighborhood, that she, came from a broken home. I think her dad died early or something like that. His attorney says that's not true. She grew up, I think, on the west side, like a really nice area. Her dad's a doctor. She's rich. She was checked in voluntarily. She told Arthur that her parents like forced her to go into this asylum after she set fire to their house. Apparently, she checked in voluntarily. So a lot of the things that Lee told him aren't real, which affects Arthur a little bit, but he still, seems to love Lee. He still like wants that. So eventually, some of this friction and some convincing from Lee that he needs to like show his true self causes him to fire his attorney and represent himself. Never a good idea. If you are trying to defend yourself against a crime, if you're trying to defend yourself in court, do not represent yourself. Have an attorney, any attorney. Arthur does not. Now he represents himself, and he represents himself as the Joker. He dresses up as the Joker, gets the face paint on, and he does some strange accents, but generally he is more reserved than I expected. And I was like, okay, finally. This was like an hour and a half into the movie. It took a long time to get the Joker. And like, remember I said like it took too long to get there? Like most of the movie, or at least a good chunk of the movie, was like Arthur as Arthur, trying to grapple with who he is. And I don't know, I just wanted the Joker. I want like already had this whole internal dialogue, this whole internal fight in the first movie, and it was really interesting, and I liked it. And we finally got the Joker at the end, and he went crazy. Well, he went like berserker mode. That was great. And then we come back, and now it's again Arthur. Arthur in Arthur's head. Arthur trying to like fight the Joker, and eventually we get the Joker. Way late. Again, I wanted him earlier. I wanted more. And the way that they kind of fix this in the movie is there's all these musical sequences, like in Arthur's head, musical sequences of him singing, sequences of him and Lee singing, different things that are like potential futures. There's one where they're like on a TV show and they're singing, and then Lee shoots him, kind of a betrayal. There's one where like Arthur's singing in the courtroom. There's one where Arthur sings and like, beats up everyone in the court. There are a lot. I mean, the music role is like three full screens of different songs in this movie, and I liked some of them, but there were a little bit too many. Like at some point I was like, okay, enough singing. I just want to get back to the story. I felt like every 10 minutes there was another musical number, and a little bit too much for me, a little bit overindulgent for me. So anyways, I'm not really going to go into describe those. I didn't take great notes for those, and they kind of like jump in and out throughout, but just know that they are there. Now, during the trial, before Arthur represented himself, we do see some people from the last movie, which is fun. We see his neighbor, who was played by Zazie Beetz, called to the stand. She testifies when she found him in her apartment. And after that, she also testifies about what his mom said about him. And she said some pretty mean things. His mom was apparently pretty critical of Arthur. We didn't get that in the first movie, but that's all from Arthur's perspective. Now we get to see someone else. And apparently his mom was like, I called him happy, ironically, and now like he took it as a career. He's weird, but he's not going to hurt anyone. Things like that. We also see his old psychiatrist, who's called to read like portions of his diary, his private thoughts, which seems a little unfair. It seems like that should be like his personal space, but she reads it. And the final witness for the DA's case is the Puddles from the Laugh Factory, from Arthur's old job. And this is, at this point, Arthur is representing himself as the Joker. So Puddles testifies about, the day that Arthur killed the other clown, and how that has affected him and how he hasn't been able to sleep and how he's always scared and how Arthur like scared him. And then he also, when Arthur's, questioning him as the Joker in his like Southern, like KFC kind of accent, uh, Puddles does say that like he liked Arthur and that Arthur was the only one that was nice to him. And I was like, hey, that's a pretty good piece of your defense. Look, like Arthur was nice. Arthur wouldn't hurt you. The Joker maybe was a different character, but Arthur doesn't take any of this. He just kind of like, tells him to stop talking and tells him that he's done with his questions. So for some reason, this does seem to affect him, though. Also, the idea that Lee might not be who she says she was seems to affect him. And so after this, Arthur doesn't even call any witnesses for his defense. He just rests his case. And then in his closing statement, he just like talks to the jury and like wipes off his makeup before this, so he looks kind of like half makeup clown. And his closing statement is he just like admits to killing six people and that it was just him, that there's just Arthur. There's no Arthur or the Joker, which I don't know. This like redemption arc was weird. I mean, I guess that's kind of what this was building up to, like the whole like, is there Arthur and the Joker? Is there just Arthur? It feels like there are two people. It feels like they're distinct. It feels like their mannerisms are different. It feels like, what they do is different. Maybe that is just very good acting, but I don't know. I could see the defense, but Arthur doesn't. And he just says, I killed six people. He admits to killing his mom. We had admitted to before, except he admitted it to Lee. So now he has a new charge. And he also then tells a bad joke after this. He tells a bad joke to the jury. He says, knock, knock. Who's there? Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck who? That's the rest of his case. So the jury deliberates for like an hour and comes to a verdict. And when Arthur was confessing earlier, Lee left the courtroom. And so when the verdict comes back, he has to go back into the courtroom. He's calling Lee, trying to get her to show up, and she doesn't pick up his calls. So Lee isn't there in the courtroom anymore when the verdict comes out. And the jury reads its verdict. We get three guilty verdicts, I think. Definitely guilty on killing Murray. Guilty in the second degree on killing that clown. That clown they used to work with that gave him the gun. And I think they were starting to go through the various, essentially Wall Street people that he killed. And I think the third count was guilty in the second degree. And then boom, the courtroom explodes. Like the entire wall of the courtroom explodes. Apparently, there was a car bomb that went off, and we have this great scene where like everything is muted. There's destruction everywhere. Arthur eventually like gets up. He's one of the first people to get up, and his ears are ringing. It's a really well done scene, especially if you see it in like Dolby. There's like good rumble. It's a really amazing sequence. But Arthur eventually gets up and he goes outside. And while he's walking around outside, kind of dazed, someone in full Joker like cosplay sees him and gets him, throws him into a car with someone else who's like in a Joker mask, and they start driving away and telling him to stay down, like stay down. They finally got him, and they're like, we're gonna, screw that, we're gonna burn it all down, we're gonna do everything. And Arthur hears this and doesn't seem to like it. And so when they stop at a light, Arthur, because I guess he'd confessed and now he wanted to live a normal life, I guess, left the car and started running. And when he's running, he's much more visible. And so the cops see him and they start pursuing him. Eventually, Arthur runs to those stairs, the like Joker dance stairs, and he sees Lee on those stairs. He goes up and talks to Lee, and she says that all of this was a fantasy. And when he dropped it, when he like dropped the Joker and said like there's no like Joker, it's just me, Arthur, and like confessed to those killings, that it was over for her. So poor Arthur. He thought he had everything. He thought that he had like his life. Also, Lee told him earlier that he was pregnant, that she was pregnant. I don't know if it was real or not. I'm not sure. But at this point, she's like, I'm gone. So Arthur is devastated, and the cops then pull up on the stairs and they take him back to Arkham. Now, he's not treated well at Arkham, but eventually, as he's awaiting, the sentencing, I assume, is the next step. I assume he's waiting his sentencing hearing. He gets a visitor. And so on the way to the visitor, a guard takes him and like takes him to the visitor. While he's going walking to the visitor, another inmate comes up and says he wants to tell him a joke. This is someone that we'd seen earlier, but he was only in like the background. And so Arthur's like, I gotta go. Is it a quick joke? And he's like, yeah, there'll be a quick joke. And at this point, the guard is like turned the corner, like, oh, they're alone. Interesting. Well, this prisoner tells him the joke. He says, there once was a psychopath who went into a bar, and there he saw a drunken clown. And he says, I used to watch you on TV. He asks this drunken clown if he can get him anything. And the clown says, if you're buying, you can get me anything. And the psychopath says, how about I give you what you deserve? And then he takes a shiv out and shivs Arthur like six times in the stomach. And like, whoa. And when this is happening, after he gets shivved, look down, Arthur's like bleeding. And then we go into one of the dream sequences, one of the earlier dream sequences where it's like Arthur and Harley in like a TV show almost. They do like a dance, and eventually Harley pulls out a gun and shoots him in the stomach. And that ended that sequence. Well, now we go back and we see Arthur look down at his stomach and there's blood coming out. And he falls over in this dream sequence. And then we see in the real world, Arthur has fallen over and he's kind of like bleeding out, and the camera comes in and focuses on his face, and you see his face kind of like his eyes just like stop blinking. But in the background, tough to see. It's kind of blurred. You see that person that stabbed him uh looks like he cuts his mouth like along the edges, just like Heath Ledger's Joker. And this kid kind of looks a little bit like Heath Ledger. So that's the end. We see the camera pull into Arthur. His eyes are like vacant essentially. And in the background, we see like apparently a new Joker created. Now, is this going to connect like the Arthur storyline to the Batman storyline, the new Batman movie, the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, where at the very end in the stingers of that he met the Joker? Well, maybe this person who is at Arkham killed Arthur. Maybe he will become a new Joker. He does cut his mouth just like the Joker did, just like Heath Ledger's Joker did. So that's my guess. My guess is this is all going to connect and that this is going to become like that new Joker's origin story. And maybe there will be another Joker, like Joker Jr., Joker Nouveau. I mean, if they're going to see with the French, like Joker New, I don't know, something like that. But that is kind of what I think is probably going to happen. But we'll see. Anyways, that is Joker Folie À Deux. Like I said, I think you should watch it. I didn't like this movie as much as I watched the first one. I watched the first one yesterday or today, one of those times. I still love it. I still think it's fantastic. I still think it's a masterpiece. I love that movie. This one is very good, but I didn't love some of the new things about it. I didn't love like all the dream sequences. I didn't love how long it took to get to the Joker. I mean, we already went through that. We already went through the, realistic version, and then he became this like larger than life character. And then we go back to him being essentially a regular person and waiting for that Joker character to come. I wanted him to start as the Joker. But no, we don't get that. We have another build up to this new Joker, and then he just kind of abandons it. And so it just didn't really have the same kind of impact, didn't really have the same kind of feel as the first movie. I did like the ultimate ending. I thought that was kind of a nice twist that he got killed and then this new Joker might be created, but it took a very long time to get there, and there were a lot of music sequences. So, hey, you know what? I still think you should ultimately watch it. If you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And if you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.